Hello, I'm Stefan. This is True Stories in a Composer's Life. In this episode, I want to warn you about taking on a gig you are not ready for and what I learned from doing just that. When it was time for me to get a job, my options as a former music student were limited, mostly because I was absolutely not going to do the day job plus music thing. I wanted to do just music. Now, for starters, I could play piano, and I did. I played background music, light classics and film themes in restaurants, shopping malls, that kind of thing. And of course, every music student is also a music teacher, so I've done my fair share of teaching piano, some guitar, and this just in, music production and technology. I was just out of electronic music school and I was all over this new breed of digital gear that was coming out all the time. We had these fantastic MIDI sequences all of a sudden and samplers. This really was the dawning of the home studio era as we know it today, where you could produce broadcast quality stuff in your bedroom. Through this gig, I met a fellow named Clyde Harvey. He had an Emax 2 sampler and a bunch of MIDI gear, so I would go over to his house and we'd work on his stuff. Now, his regular gig was also playing piano, but he didn't do light classics and film themes. He did what I thought was the real deal, pop music with vocals. One night I went to see him play. This was at the Bay, an upscale piano bar downtown Vancouver, where we were living at the time. I don't think it's around anymore. I was so impressed with his set. I mean, his voice was silky smooth and the intonation spot on, and even his piano playing made me envious. He didn't just plunk down octaves all night long like I would do. He played these great bass lines so in the pocket. Really a great performer. Wouldn't you know it, a few days later he called me, this was a Wednesday, and said, "Stefan, do you want to take my gig at the Bay next Saturday because I can't make it?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to." After I hung up the phone, I thought, did I just commit to a 4-hour gig playing pop songs at the piano? I don't even know what to play. I knew plenty of songs on guitar, but on piano, I had nothing. A handful of Elton John ballads, that was about it. So I made a list of all the songs I could get ready in a hurry, and I realized I needed some help because I didn't have that great left hand. So I started programming some backing tracks, just drums and bass for the most part. And then it was 3 days of mad practicing all day, all night. I was driving my poor neighbors up the wall. But I was so gung-ho. I wanted more gigs like this, and secretly I was hoping they might hire me back one day. When Saturday came, I took down my home studio, brought all this stuff with me into the venue, and piled it on top of the grand piano. The manager came over as I kept bringing in more stuff and said, "What the hell are you doing? I thought you were playing the piano." And I'm like, I am. Don't worry. Why did I bring all this stuff instead of just making a recording? Because I was still in this university degree mode where bringing pre-recorded music to a live gig, that was cheating. But playing the exact same thing from a wall of gear was not, because that would be live electronic music. I'm sure half the people in the room couldn't even see me because I was buried behind all that stuff. Anyway, when it was time for my first set, I just cut loose. I was pounding on these keys and screaming at the top of my voice because I was convinced this is how you make an impression. And I sure was. The manager came flying over and yelled at me, "Are you crazy? You turn that thing down!" I thought this was an insult. I mean, I was giving everything. I'm sure I didn't turn it down more than half a notch. I kept going full blast. Halfway through the set, I noticed a bit of a strain in my voice because I was pushing so hard. But I thought, the heck with it. This is my only night. I have all the time in the world to recover after this. But by the end of the set, I was pretty damn hoarse. Now I had a 15-minute break, so 45 minutes of playing, 15-minute break, 4 times in a row. And during this time, my vocal cords tightened. And when I tried to sing again at the top of set 2, I was like, I had to push even harder to force my voice to start singing again. And even then, I couldn't do the high notes anymore. They were just gone. So anytime that there was a high melody, I was singing something else, like a lower harmony vocal. And as I realized this isn't going so well, I felt more and more insecure, and I tried to make up for that by pushing even harder. So at the end of set 2, my voice was shot, and I knew I wouldn't last another 2 sets going on like this. So I took my 15-minute break to go into edit mode. I had all this stuff with me, right? And I started transposing songs to a lower key to save my voice. At the top of set 3, I realized I had done this haphazardly. I couldn't even remember how many semitones I had transposed all these songs. And I couldn't tell. The room was noisy. The speakers were pointed away from me to avoid feedback. All I heard was this. I mean, is that an F? Is that an E? I couldn't tell. I had to feel my way into these songs. Plus, I wasn't used to transposing on the fly. Anything beyond basic 3 or 4 chord songs proved to be quite challenging. I started hitting wrong chords all over the place, so I knew I had to kick out some of the more complicated stuff and play something else. I mean, imagine the stress that I was under. I was still thinking, hey, this is my big break. Half the time, I don't even know which key I'm playing. I'm pushing my voice beyond its limits to save the gig, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what else could I play? It was an absolute nightmare. At the end of set 3, that was it. I had completely destroyed my voice. There was no way I would sing even one more note. So all the rest of my songs went out the window, and I knew my final set would have to be light classics and film themes. My hopes that maybe by the end of the night the place would be empty did not come true, because here we are, it's Saturday night, midnight, the place is packed, now the crowd wants to party, and I'm sitting there playing the theme from Chariots of Fire and Beethoven für Elise. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever done in public. As you can imagine, at the end of the night I just felt terrible. I was depressed. To add insult to injury, as I was coiling up all these cables to take down this ridiculous setup, the manager came over and he said, so I meant to ask, oh, by the way, thanks for filling in today. But next week, Clyde, is he coming back next week? I didn't need to hear anything more to know I would never play at the Bay again. And the irony was I couldn't even answer him. I knew I had blown it. I just wanted to say, yeah, don't worry, he'll be back next week. But I couldn't. I opened my mouth and all I said was, ugh. What did I learn from this? It may sound strange, but actually I still wanted more gigs like this. Yes, it took me a few days to get over this disaster and even longer to get my voice back, but this had absolutely rubbed me the wrong way. I just knew I could do so much better than this, and I was going to prove it, if only to myself. So I went and signed up with an agent, Whitefoot Entertainments in Vancouver. And the first gig they sent me to, only a couple of weeks later, was a 3-night stint at a hotel piano bar way in the interior of BC. I can't even remember the name of the place. Out in the boonies, really. It took me all day to drive there. I had smartened up. There was no way I was going to carry all my stuff there. I had made recordings on cassette on my Sony Pro Walkman, 1 cassette for each set. Yes, there was a chance the cassettes would be out of tune with respect to the piano, but actually that never happened. And I also knew that bringing so much stuff is completely silly. The audience might think you're not even doing anything because all that hocus pocus is doing the work for you. And of course I had worked on my set list, so I started low and soft, got my voice to gel, gradually built up the energy, constantly reminding myself to not push. And what can I tell you? By the end of the night, my voice was perfectly fine. And I thought, wow, this is cool. I could even do another 2 sets, no problem. And at that moment, I was, in a strange sort of way, almost a little thankful for this atrocious, demeaning experience at the Bay, because I thought, well, what if this would have been my first time out? I would be sitting here on a truckload of gear with a destroyed voice, only to realize I have 2 nights left to go. If this resonates with you, I mean, maybe you are a gigging musician, maybe you have had horrible nightmares on stage, I would very much love to read about that in the comments. But don't forget to also subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of True Stories. Thanks so much for watching.